In this video, I'll be talking about the global PSO2 and the abilities that will pop up or show up when episode 5 rolls around. So they might be released a bit later, they might be released during its release. Either way, I will be talking about these different abilities. Note that I might leave a couple ability groups just because I wasn't here, especially when it comes to like the Japanese PSO2 and seeing everything through for episode 5 era. I heard a bunch of stories, especially how like Hero was released and everything was fucking stupid in terms of everyone playing fucking Hero. But then again, that's what's going on over here with the Japanese PSO2, and almost everyone is playing with Luster right now. But it's understandable. New class, everyone wants to tour around with it. Anyways, I'm getting off topic. If you want to see a certain point, look in the description for that. Note that I am going to say some of my opinions here and there. However, there's also some other things I'm going to stress out. This is ultimately up to you to figure out what you want to do with the information. If you have a battle plan, if you got something you want to do, regardless of what I say, then go ahead and do it. If you have been watching my videos, or if you personally ask me for advice and say like, hey, when should I seriously affix? Episode 5 is that time and era, and it's because of the SSA. I'll talk about that at the end of this video, but SSA stands for Special S-Class Abilities. Or it might be called, over there in the global North America PSO2, Special S-Class Augments. Before we talk about that, let me talk about sentence abilities. Sentence abilities, they can be viewed like a flint ability, which is pretty much attack and PP. When it comes to you getting the episode 5 content, you guys will have a new game mode. It's going to be Buster, or they might change the name over there. Pretty much you're going to be defending a bunch of towers against a bunch of episode 5 mobs and darkers. When you get this different currency that drops from doing Buster, you can go over here on the second floor of the shop area. It might be different over there in North America, global PSO2. Pay attention to the patch notes. But you get to go over here. You get to try to find this attendant or find someone that's new on the second floor. When you find this individual, you want to click on them and then there will be an exchange. Once again, I don't know if it's going to be called Buster exactly. They might change it to something weird. But when you select these, you can see that you can trade in your currency to get a bunch of stuff. There's 12-star units you could aim for, which is going to be the Ilvadal, which then can be upgraded into the... what is it? Shit, there's like 3 different groups. I know the Scaval's the last one. Cleasis, there we go. The Cleasis, and then Ilvadal is the 12-star. Cleasis, I don't remember if it's a 12 or 13-star, but then you can also upgrade the Cleasis into a Scaval. Might be named differently over there in NA, but pretty much you can get these units and they will have an upgrade later. But the big one, if you want to try to get sentence abilities, you can get them through the first option. You will have to trade in roughly around a good 200 medals, 100 medals for the receptor. Here's the thing about sentence abilities compared to Flint's and alter abilities. The sentence abilities, you need a receptor to actually get it to transfer. Even though you have 3 sentence power in your formula, that will not work. I will have a brief video talking about sentence abilities and showing you guys how to go about it. But yeah, the only way to get a sentence ability to transfer is if you have a sentence receptor within your formula for one of your sentence abilities, or you have an SAF of a sentence ability on a weapon and or unit. There are several other sentence abilities as well, but let me talk about these ones. Sentence power pretty much is plus 20 plus 4. It might be called Sentence Might over there, and then I don't know what's the equivalent to our Sentence Magia Trio on Flint. But if it's just a regular name of itself, like Power, Shoot, Triple, Technique, it's just going to offer plus 4 PP and plus 20 attack. The other types of sentence, they might implement this later in the game. Over there, we did get these ones from the Beach Wars 2020 for our seasonal quest. But you will get something called Sentence Trio, or I don't know what's the English name equivalent for that. But pretty much this sentence ability is going to give us plus 20 R attack, plus 3 PP, and plus 20 HP. So it's giving at least a good chunk of HP and PP. We got Sentence Magia, same thing. Instead of R attack, it's going to be T attack, but it gives plus 20 in HP and PP. And then there's also a triple, if we can find you. Here's the triple ability. This is going to give all-rounder attack stats. It's pretty much like a modulator. So that is the sentence abilities. The other ability I don't have a lot of them, but this one is quite specific. I never talked about these abilities because I wasn't sure on how to use them. There are builds and affixes and people using these abilities, but it's quite specific. It's very niche. Why? These are the Slayer abilities. Slayer abilities, and I think it's called the Reverie Abilities, they have a very special gimmick to them because it goes to a very specific type. You can only find this on a weapon, mind you, and this is the second group of abilities I'll mention. But these are very, very specific, so if I wanted to try to do damage against a Darker, guess what? You will have to try to get these. I will have a separate video talking about how you can manipulate this, but if you look at the Slayer ability, it increases the power of attacks against Darkers. Effect is reduced as the weapon rarity increase. So if I were to use a 14-star, 15-star weapon with that ability, it's not going to give you the most potential out of it, or it's not going to give you the most benefit just because it decreases if that rarity is high. That's why you would find some people using low rarity weapons and having that very specific ability, along with several other abilities that can be toyed with that sort of a fixed set, that build. But once again, it's very niche because guess what happens if you use that sort of weapon against a dark, and that's not a Darker. You're not going to get that potential, that ability to kick in. It's very specific. I might be wrong about that popping up in episode 5. Once again, I wasn't here during the time when Japanese PSO2 was going through that era in phrase. I do know that a lot of people were playing on Hero and stuff was broken. Anyways, back on topic. The next thing I'll talk about, Reveries. Reveries are gonna drop from the Dark Fowls equivalent, and they're gonna be the Omega variants. So, obviously, if you've been playing PSO2 from the start of it, you fought against the different Dark Fowls. You got 5 of them. Persona, Double, Apprentice, Loser, Elder. Guess what? There are Omega variants for them. You got Omega Loser, you got Omega Hunar, you got Omega Double, you got Omega Fowl's Angel, you got Omega Aprigina. Apparently they changed her name. She's apparently Aprigina over here in the Japanese PSO2. It's just that those are the episode 5 equivalent, and guess what? If you want these Reveries, you will need to fight against the Omega variant, those Omega versions. If you, let's say, do a quest where you fought against like the old Loser, the one that doesn't have Omega in their name, guess what? When it comes to their drop pool and their abilities that can drop, with that regular Loser, it will not drop the Omega. Or it will not drop, Reveries, because once again, Reveries drop from episode 5 and with those Omega variants. So if you want to try to farm for Reveries, you will actually have to fight against the Omega variant. So if I were fighting against an Omega Loser, for example, he will drop his Soul and his Reverie. Now, it's not 100% guaranteed. It's still RNG chance because this game is heavy on RNG. But let me show you guys what these Reveries can offer. It's going to be heavy in the attack field. There is a gimmick or a con to using a Reverie that's not finalized, aka if you know about Mana Reverie, the reason why a lot of people go for it is because of the fact that it's the one Reverie that gives you a bunch of positive stats, and it's the mid-game ability where you combine all these other Reveries. But for Loser Rev, guess what? Loser Rev can offer you a whopping plus 40 in T attack, plus 20 in S and R attack. The one downside to it, though, is that negative 20 HP. Now, this is going to be my opinion. When it comes to this, I don't like it, just because it's taking away stats. Yes, there is a way to combat this, which is to emphasize heavily on that HP and get rid of that negative stat overall. But you're going out of your way to try to counteract that, and you're not getting the fullest out of those stat numbers. Now, obviously, it's just 20 HP. Is that going to make a huge deal? That depends on how you view it. And once again, this is entirely up to you. But for me personally, I would go and try to make Mana Rev compared to using a Reverie where it's going to give me some minus in my stats. But once again, depends on how you view it. But that's one of the Reveries. You got something like Elder Reverie. It's going to give you plus 40 in S attack, plus 20 in the other two types of attack, and I can't remember what it decides to lower down. It's going to lower down your PP. So to give you a -2. You got something like Persona Rev. Now, with Persona Rev, this allows you to try to push for all attack stats. Like, you know how Modulator gives you a whopping +30, or Apprentice gives you a whopping +40? Guess what? Persona Rev can do that same thing. It can give you a whopping +40 in SRT attack. The only downside is the fact that it's getting -20 to all your other defenses. And once again, if it's depending on how you want to deal with this, you can counteract it or just emphasize on those different stats. It's up to you, but now you can push for higher stat numbers just because these reveries are becoming a thing. And if you're wondering how much mana rev gives, I have videos talking about how to make this and what it can offer. You can look above my header in the description. I will talk about these reveries in its own separate video. Apparently people are buying them, I think. But yeah, this mana reverie that is finalized, guess what? It gives you all +40, HP +20, +4 PP. And by the attack +50, it's in reference to your melee, technique, and your shoot +50. You would definitely want to try to make something like this. Or maybe it's not within your budget yet, maybe you don't want to gamble as much. You figure out what you want to do. But that's the reveries for you. And once again, when it comes to you getting these reveries, you need to fight against the episode 5 Omega variants. The last thing I'll talk about will be SSAs, special S-Class abilities. Special S-Class abilities are a huge game changer, and I will have a video explaining why this is a huge deal in a way. You might not be thinking it as much, and you might be saying more if it's just abilities and stuff. These S-Class abilities, if you do it right, you can forever keep it in your possession. Like, the only way you can get rid of an S-Class ability is if you purposely destroy it, or you do something in your effects that gets rid of it. You can make sure that you will forever use this on any weapon later on. Now, I don't know when exactly to get to add S-Class abilities, but look forward to these because these S-Class abilities are pretty much mini potentials that allow you to do a lot of customization to it. Once again, I have separate videos going more into details about this and emphasizing on why they are so good compared to what you currently have over there in the North America PSO2. But understand that something like this can give you a lot more damage than raw flat numbers. If you don't know much about like the percent versus flat numbers, pretty much a flat number is what it is. It's like what I have over here, which this unit, all these affixes give me plus 180 T attack. Okay, that's great. But if I have something like this, for example, a percent damage, that goes above the 180, depending on what number you are tampering with. But this thing is a lot, and I'll show you guys how much I'm getting with these 4 S-Class abilities. I do have my weapon potential. I'll read that. This is pretty much the Stil weapon. I already made a video talking about how to make it, especially if you are in the Japanese PSO2 and you're interested in trying to get it. You can look at that video above my head or in the description. So the weapon potential is pretty much the weapon potential that is stuck to the weapon. Like, if you upgrade it, you will get this weapon potential. There are other weapon potentials you can go for. This is pretty much like basics in Weapon 101 stuff. I will have to make a video talking about that. I do have a playlist talking about some of those little gimmicks, especially when it comes to like weapon technical stuff. Anyways, damaging Steadfast Might level 3. Damage boost lowers when you take damage and recovers over time. At 60% damage boost, reduce damage taken by 40%, boost PP regeneration by 50%, recovers 20 PP every 10 seconds, and you become massive. So it's a lot of things kicking in because that's the weapon potential. However, I have the choice and I have the power to customize this as I see fit. And guess what I decided to do? I emphasize a lot on percent damage. So I decided to get something called S1 Red Petal Flash. This boosts damage by 3% for 30 seconds each time you deal a total of 150,000 damage. As long as I meet that conditional statement, it's going to give me that 3% for 30 seconds. 3%. Now, just by itself, it's like, okay, Morph, that's actually kind of good. Okay, what's next? I got an S2 ability. While Petal, Ocean, Leaf, Moon, Snow, or Shadow Flash is active, boosts damage by 5%. Guess what? This is a Red Petal Flash. I fulfilled that criteria. So Rainbow's Intent it's giving me an additional 5%. So not only am I getting a 3%, I'm also getting a 5%. Guess what? I stacked that even further. S3 Nature's Melody 2. While red petal flash, blue ocean flash, or white snow flash is active, boosts damage by up to 7% over time. Now, it will build up, but it will hit that 7% cap. And guess what? If I got 8% already, and I got the 7%, I'm at 15% damage. 15%. That's a lot more than this static number over here. 15. Not only that, this S5 ability, it doesn't really complement that S1 ability, but it is what it is. Unleashes a shockwave on your third step normal attack, boosts damage by 2% wand only. It's an additional 2%. Now I got 17%. 17% damage I'm doing just with this weapon. And it didn't come like this. I made it like this. I affixed it with these potentials. So you have the ability to customize your weapon now, compared to something that's just bland. I mean, don't get me wrong, you get a weapon that has the weapon potential that is suited towards you, but if you're able to customize it even further, this gives you a lot more power, a lot more customization, and this complements you so well with your playstyle if you can get the right abilities. And that is it. I might have left a certain ability, like maybe the divine abilities route in episode 5. But if they do release divine abilities, note that it's pretty much like a mark ability. You cannot easily transfer it without a receptor. Or if it's a SAF, but there are no SAFs for divine abilities. Might be named something differently over there. But that is it. So thank you guys for watching. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, put it down below. I just wanted to give you guys a sneak peek on the abilities that already come. And this is when... Once again, this is just my opinion. It depends entirely on how you view it and when you want to do certain things. But this is when you want to start to get serious, especially with these S-Class abilities. And also, once again, I don't know if they're going to release it all in one go. Maybe they'll just have first half. Maybe they introduce like the sentence abilities first and the Reverie abilities before going into S-Class abilities. It depends on how they format it and how they pace themselves over there in Global. Just note that these abilities are going to come out, and this is when you want to start customizing your weapons or get ready to do a bunch of farming, because you can get these abilities by farming certain quests at certain difficulties and meeting certain criteria and dealing with fucking RNG and all that. I'll see you guys in the next video though. Peace.